378 years ago, in 1627, en route to Batavia, the Dutch East India ship Golden Zeppard, captained by Franco Thijssen, sailed along the south coast of New Holland. On board was Peter Neutz, a high official of the East India Company. This operation of VI5PN is to commemorate the 350th anniversary of the death of Peter Neutz, after whom Neutz Archipelago was named. One sunny April morning in 2005, 4 Melbourne amateurs gathered at the home of Peter VK3QI. After months of planning, the time had finally come for them to travel to St Peter Island in the far west of South Australia. Previous expeditions had proven that using plastic watertight barrels was the best way to transport equipment and personal items. But the biggest challenge for this trip was to package all of the equipment to meet the volume and weight restrictions of the transport vessel. By looking at equipment lists from previous expeditions, it was easy to see what was useful and what could be left at home. Again, the crew were able to use Peter's covered trailer, hitched up to Max VK3WT's Toyota Land Cruiser. It was essential to leave nothing to chance. Even the trailer's tyre pressure got some attention. Jack VK3WW discovered a way of getting 50 metres of coaxial cable and a 15-metre power extension lead into one of the barrels, leaving plenty of room for other equipment. All of the team live in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne and were not looking forward to the 1,600-kilometre trip to Ceduna in South Australia. As there were 4 drivers on board, it was decided to do the trip without an overnight stop. "22 hours later they arrived at the Ceduna Tourist Park and prepared for the early Thursday morning boat trip to St Peter Island. Ceduna is a coastal town on the edge of the famous Nullarbor Plain, at the start of the Great Australian Bight. Ceduna was first named Murat Bay by the French explorer Nicolas Baudin in 1802. Ceduna has a deep-sea port where many tons of gypsum is shipped out daily, as well as grain and salt. Oysters produced locally and the fine offshore fishing makes Ceduna a popular place to spend some time. The transport to St Peter Island would be supplied by Perry Will from Ceduna Boat Charter. Perry explained that the jetty was not the best place to load the boat, so all of the equipment was loaded onto the 7.5 metre twin-engine Shark Cat while it was still in the car park. Once the boat was loaded and on the boat ramp, they would then be able to board it prior to launching. St Peter Island at 4,000 hectares is the second largest island off the coast of South Australia and is located some 14 kilometres from the mainland in the Neutz Archipelago group of islands. Discovered in 1627, it has a very interesting history. During the 1800s it was used as a whaling station, and during the 1900s it was used for grazing. Originally the group of islands and the coastline was named Neutz Land, and the Jonathan Swift's novel Gulliver's Travels, first published in 1727, had the Isles of Lilliput and the mythical Little People based on this island group. It is now a protected wildlife reserve and an access permit was required from Parks South Australia. During the breeding season, short-tailed shearwater birds are very common. They return from the northern hemisphere annually to the same nesting spot. The brush-tailed beetong, a member of the kangaroo family, and greater stick-nest rat are both endangered species on the Australian mainland. On the coastal islands, without the threat of cats, dogs and foxes, they have a better chance of survival. St. Peter Island is one of the coastal wildlife sanctuaries chosen for a breeding program. The only real predator they have on the island are the black tiger snake and sand goanna. The black tiger snake is listed as the 8th deadliest snake in the world, and if aroused they can become very aggressive, so you can imagine the boys would be staying well clear of them. Oscar Charlie 220 St. Peter Island was previously activated in March 1997 by MEL VK6LC. Along with 4 other operators, they managed 2,200 contacts worldwide. It took them 2 boat trips to transport some 2 tons of equipment onto the island. With the advent of more modern lightweight radio transceivers, generators and camping equipment, the VI5PN expedition was able to keep the equipment weight to under 700 kilograms. A good proportion of the weight would be in the 120 litres of fuel and the 120 litres of drinking water.
But I have noticed that we're getting quite high night time, tide, so you should be aware of what you see in the day maybe.
So that's the names there, there's a homestead there, and there's a shack just here where there's right right in there, see the sun shining on it.
As they require very little water, the twin hulls on the Shark Cat make it easier to get in close to the shore. This would have to be the easiest transfer that the team has had. Even so, it was still a hard task to carry the equipment over the soft sand and above the high tide mark. As Perry departed for Sejuna, the boys prepared to set up the VI5PN main operating tent. By this stage, the ambient temperature was in the low 30s and the team was careful not to overexert themselves and risk heat stroke. Once the main operating tent was erected, it was lunchtime. During this period, Peter and Max decided to have a look at the local scenery.
Victory Lima, Lima.